Let me get this straight, Blazio. You shot him in the leg. You stole his car. You took his girl. And now you want Zukoski to set you up with Kropotkin?
Yes.
Are you going to appeal to his heart?
No. His charitable nature.
That might work. Okay. Showtime. Valentine operates out of building number 23. Are you sure you want to do this? Last 00 agent who went on a spending spree at Christie's charity auction had to send his purchases back to MI6 in very small boxes.
Make sure they send mine back DHL tracked and signed for.
Another morning shot to hell. Free market economy. I swear it'll be the end of me. Walther PPK, 7.65mm. Only 3 men I know use such a gun. I believe I've shot 2 of them.
Lucky me.
I think not. Blair Ballard, charming, sophisticated secret agent. Shaken, not stirred.
See, you haven't lost your delicate sense of humor, Valentine, or your need for an audience. Who's strangling the cat?
Strangling a cat? That's Irina, my mistress.
She's a very talented girl.
Irina, take a hike. So, Mr. Ballard, what is it that brings you to my neighborhood? Still working for MI6? Or have you decided to join the 21st century? I hear the new M used to be Voldemort. He who must not be named. Wingardium Leviosa.
I want you to do me a favor.
He wants me to do him a favor. My knee aches every single day. Twice as bad when it is cold. Do you have any idea how long winter lasts in this country?
For an ex-KGB agent, you surprise me, Valentine. Surely a man of your stature must have realized that the skill was not to hit your knee, but to miss the rest of you.
So why did you not kill me?
Call it professional courtesy.
Then I should extend you the same courtesy.
Christie's Auction House, September 28, 7 p.m. I want you to set me up with Kropotkin.
What has he done to deserve you?
He stole a helicopter.
I have 6.
3. None that fly.
Who's counting?
They used the chopper to steal a nuclear weapon. When 007 was killed on a mission in Turkey during Skyfall, the contents of his apartment was put into storage. They are now being put up in a charity auction to the highest bidder. So apart from his Aston Martins, his Tom Ford suits and his Fabergé eggs, they're also putting up for grabs the locator car from the nuclear weapon that was stolen.
What do you expect from a Mission Impossible fan?
Who?
This Kropotkin. I've never met the man, but I know he fancies himself as a Tom Cruise wannabe.
Not exactly his finest hour. Bond always beats Mission Impossible at the box office. Tell Kropotkin I've been asking questions about Top Gun Maverick and I love Ethan Hunt. Tell him I'm going to this Eon charity auction.
There are 3 people you must meet. The Eon producer Michael G. Wilson, special effects man Chris Corbould, and the holder of the key to the Eon archive, Meg Simmonds. They will lead you to Kropotkin. Then you and I will be even, and Kropotkin will owe me one.
Precisely. Let's see how badly he wants it. Welcome friends, welcome one and all. Blair Ballard, the Bon Vivant, very much at your service. Now, it can't have escaped your attention that this is the 60th anniversary of James Bond on film. Yes, way back on October the 5th, 1962, James Bond burst onto screens around the world and the Bond phenomena was born. Now, Eon have tucked into their back catalogue and their archives and are putting on a huge 60th anniversary auction here at Christie's. We're going to chat to Michael G. Wilson, Chris Corbould and Meg Simmonds and Adrian Hume-Sayer and talk about the lots that are going to the Hammer and the 60th celebrations in general. But let's pop in and have a look at all the deals. Michael, Gregg, absolutely wonderful to be able to have a quick chat to you. I know you're very, very busy morning and obviously the 60th anniversary celebrations are in full swing. How's it all going?
Very well, very well. I mean, it's a great turnout this morning for our auction, and we hope to get a lot of publicity for it and raise a lot of money for charity.
45 charities. I mean, Eon is it's one of your tenets, isn't it? You're known for your philanthropy.
Yeah. Well, we are. We try to raise money when we do our premieres and auctions and things like that over the years. It started with Cubby and Harry, really, with the first premieres that they did for various charities, and it continues to this day.
Fantastic. Now, before we start, I was going to say huge congratulations. Obviously, you've just come back on Wednesday from the Chinese theatre. You've made your indelible mark on the Hollywood Walk of Fame. So,
yeah, in Hollywood, when we put our hands and feet in the cement there at the Chinese theatre, it was a boyhood dream because I was. From 8 to 11, I went to school right there in Hollywood, just a half a block off Hollywood Boulevard, and my friends and I would go up and we put our hands and feet in the various impressions in the cement there from all the stars. I never thought it could possibly happen to me.
Now, in future generations, we'll be doing the same thing with your hands and feet. Now, I was going to try to rack my brains for questions that nobody has asked. Now, it's always difficult because, but I was going to, one friend, Ed, thought of something pretty incredible. How was it growing up, talking about your childhood, how was it growing up having Batman as your father? Because Lewis, your father, was the original Batman back in 1943.
He was. Of course, I was a little infant at the time, so I never really went and saw him in the theaters because by the time I was old enough to go to the theaters, Batman had evolved into another Batman, and then and from there. But when I was 23 years old, I was at Stanford Law School, and they had in San Francisco, they showed all the films one night. And so I went up there, and I was exactly the same age as my father. It was quite an experience to sit there and watch my dad at the age of 23 acting out Batman. So that was quite an event.
So cool, because I mean, they introduced the Batcave, and you had the grandfather clock to kind of go down the secret passageway. It's brilliant, absolutely wonderful.
The budget wasn't quite at the same of the modern Batman films, but they're still good fun.
Yeah.
But also, you had a busy day on that Wednesday because you were honoured with the Pioneer Award.
We had the Pioneer Award, which again we raised a lot of money for charity there for the people in the exhibition field who are, they've had an incredibly difficult time with COVID. A lot of the film, a lot of the industry was pretty well closed down for months at a time, and a lot of people suffered in that. So it was a great opportunity to help raise some money for those people.
Absolutely. I mean, that's two of the tenets of Eon. I mean, the philanthropy side of what you do, and also, I mean, you can literally say Eon and James Bond saved cinema to a certain extent because you waited, didn't you?
We waited. There was lots of other people that waited, and the whole film industry wanted to save the cinemas and not let them go under. So it was. We waited until we could show it in the film, show it in the cinemas, and around the world.
Well, it's such an important experience. I mean, sitting down, as your Barbara said, sitting down and the lights go down, you're having a shared experience with the audience.
Exactly.
Really, and the sounds and the effects and so on makes much more.
Yeah, Barbara and I were very much committed to doing that.
Now, going from a question that nobody's really asked you to a question you probably hear 100 times a day. Now, I'd feel remiss if I didn't at least ask the question. Michael, when it comes to your cameo roles, how do you choose which one you're going to... Is it something that's scripted in advance, or do you spontaneously have your kind of producer's hat on and you suddenly go, this scene here, okay, wardrobe, can you get me my Greek Orthodox priest outfit?
Well, I think I've been, over the years, tending towards uniforms and being generals, usually corrupt ones. But,
you're good at villainous roles.
But it's such fun. It's great for us to all to pick out the moments, and sometimes just your voice. I mean, I know in License to Kill, for example, you were just a DEA agent on the radio, swearing, in fact, if memory serves.
Yeah.
Well, very mildly. But on a more serious note, I'm not going to obviously be churlish enough to ask you about any potential shortlists of actors who may be under consideration because
I was just about to give you the list. You're not interested. All right.
Natchez, my God. But you and Barbara both mentioned the fact that moving forward with Bond 26 and beyond, you're looking at the sort of the reinvention, obviously, the evolution of Bond, and the trajectory that you think that the new actor will be making. Has that crystallized at all? Are we looking at going back to the sort of the Connery to Brosnan era, where you have individual missions and Tracy has died, or are we going to stay with the story arc version of Daniel Craig's tenure? Have you thought about which way you might be leaning?
I don't think we've focused on anything at this point. We're just getting through the release of No Time to Die and now the 60th anniversary. And when we get done with all of that, we'll start looking at where we go from here.
Now, I have to say, I mean, I went to the cinema age 6. My parents snuck me in to see The Spy Who Loved Me, so I've been a Bond fan forever. What I've always wanted to ask you is, you have myriad directors and writers and cinematographers and obviously the 6 actors. How do you maintain, you still go and see a Bond film and it feels like a Bond film? It's a very fine line to tread. Obviously, you have to hit the touchstones, you have to have the glamorous locations and the gadgets and the cars and so on and so forth, but also keep it fresh. So how are you going to kind of maintain that?
Well, that's a good question. What do you think, Greg? How do we do it?
It's always a really delicate balancing act. You know, there's an expectation from the audience that you have to deliver on and exceed, and that very much is just about the scale and the quality of what you're doing. Your ambitions have to be high, but of course you have to surprise people as well, and you can't just keep doing the same thing over and over. You have to evolve. I think, you know, all of that, that's something that everyone that works on the film takes very seriously, and every single department is always trying to outdo themselves in what they've done in the past. So it's a huge mountain to climb every time, and you never know how you're going to do it.
Now, one final question, because obviously...
I was going to say to you about The Spy Who Loved Me.
Oh, yes.
The dress in the desert is right behind you, and you should make sure you get a picture of that before you leave.
I'm trying to bid on it. I've got bought a lottery ticket for tonight. Barbara Bach was my favourite. The Spy Who Loved Me was my first Bond film, but it's also my favourite.
I know. Barbara Bach was a wonderful agent in that one.
She was fantastic.
And that dress is outstanding.
It's absolutely stunning. I'm going to do a quick sweep around as well. Very, very briefly though, because obviously the fans out there, you know, we love the fact that Eon's a family business. I mean, obviously Cubby, and then yourself and Barbara. Greg, are you being brought into the fold? When you eventually, hopefully in many years' time, Michael, but you decide to step back from the producing side of things, is Greg going to become part of the...
I think so. Greg certainly has been, he's been at it 20 years so far.
Oh, wow, sorry.
Yeah.
So,
learning the ropes still, but learning from the best.
Of course.
Yeah, but he works on the scripts with Barbara and I, with with all the writers and the directors. So he's been right at the heart of it.
Oh, fantastic! And script writing, because it used to be your time with Richard Maybaum on the script writing duties. You're still involved in the script writing to some extent, though.
Well,
yes?
I think producers are involved in sort of
developing,
bringing
the development process together and keeping it together.
Sure. Well, we miss you. I mean, fully on hands-on, but it was. I mean, I'm getting furious nudges from people, so I think we have to wind things up because you've got other engagements to go for.
Thank you. Well, it's been great talking to you, and I think you know, you'll be bidding, why don't you bid on a few of these things?
Absolutely. I don't need both kidneys. I mean, but fantastic. Thanks, Michael, and thanks, Greg. Many thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris Corbould, your official title is what? Special Effects and Action Vehicles Supervisor.
Supervisor, yeah.
As Natalia said in Goldeneye, boys with toys, do you have the best job in the world?
Sometimes it has its moments, but no, generally we have a lot of fun.
It must be such a joy to be able to get up in the morning and, you know, have a clean slate about what you're going to be doing for the day. Now, you've been working in Bond films for most of your life, is that right?
Very much, yeah. Spy Love Me was my first one. I think I was 18 at that stage.
How did you get involved with that?
I was working for a special effects company in Plymouth, and during the making of Spy Love Me, we were subcontracted. I made a ski pole that turned into a gun.
You did that? That was
I
your...
was mentored by a very clever design engineer, and I built them along with him. So that was my first introduction. Later on in the film, I went up onto the submarine set, helped out with the explosions and...
What a giggle! It must be such fun. Now, I mean, I was going to talk to you. I mean, because I know you were Oscar nominated for No Time to Die. Can we have a quick look? Because this is the star lot for the auction, which is coming up this week. Now, it's not a standard Aston Martin by any stretch of the imagination, is it? This is one of the stunt cars. Can you talk us through it? Can you have a quick one?
Yes. Well, we had 8 cars that Aston Martin made for us. 2 that we had a driving pod on the roof, where we got British rally champion Mark Higgins driving Daniel and Leia around. This is one of 2, which is fully kitted out with all the gadgets. So there was a lot of talk about the gadgets. You know, do we stick with the traditional ones in Goldfinger? Do we update them totally? And we decided on a mixture of both. So we kept the smoke screen. The guns, we went from a single Browning gun to...
Let's have a look, guys. Have a look. This is the actual...
So we had a lot more firepower.
Exactly. That's absolutely amazing. So this can be activated by the owner with the remote control. Can he do it from inside the car as well?
He can do it from inside the car. He can do it from a remote. Yeah, I mean, we had that facility whenever we were filming, you know, because sometimes if the stunt driver was doing a particularly intricate move, he didn't want to have to bother about pressing buttons. So we could work all the gadgets remotely, radio controlled.
Which other gadgets does the car have?
Well, as this is firing, you have a stream of shells that comes out of this side vent here. And there was a really great shot where we looked along the side here, saw the shells coming across front of the frame, but also saw the bullet impacts in the background.
Spot on.
I mean, one thing we had to be careful of, the location Matera dates back thousands of years, so we had to be very respectful of the architecture of it.
Sure.
We didn't want to damage it, and in that particular square there was a 1,000-year-old church, so we replaced everything from 3 foot down where all our bullet impacts were going to happen, and everything above was original.
Was the real 1,000-year-old
church.
Crikey. What other gadgets do we have on here? Do we have...
We have the smoke screen, which we can't...
You can't do
that today. We have, coming out the back in the film, there were some bomblets that dropped out the back. So they would...
Were they real? Were they practical in camera, or were they CGI'd?
Most of them were real practical ones. I mean, they didn't actually explode.
No,
replaced them with pyrotechnic charges, and then they added some extra CGI ones just to fill in places where we couldn't get them.
So this is where the fun happens.
This is all the mechanism for all the number plates.
Yep.
A compressor for the lights, the guns coming out. It's an air reservoir to store the air for the guns to come out. All little bits and pieces.
Amazing. See behind the screen. It's fantastic.
I mean, this is slightly different to what we would have done in the film. You know, we wouldn't have had a little air compressor like that. We'd have had a diving bottle in there that charged it up instantly.
But for the sale,
this is this has been in various exhibitions. You know, so it had to be idiot-proof, really.
Sure.
Right.
But fascinating to look behind the screens. Wonderful. Great stuff. And so, are there actually any the actual mines that come out the back? Where will they come?
They actually fire.
Oh wow!
Let me put this up.
I'll hold that for you.
Can you hold it?
Yeah, I got it.
Don't let it go. These are the little mines that we had.
I see. Look at that. Can you see that, John? Wonderful.
and they just fire out the back.
Oh, wonderful. That's so cool. And they come as part of the sale.
All right, yes, I think we'll throw these in. A couple of million.
For a couple of million, I think, yes, you know. Oh, that's absolutely incredible. Now, one thing I was going to ask you about, because the number plates. I
Yes.
saw on the photo, because my wife works next door, and she saw the Aston being unloaded. And I saw the blanked out plate, and I remember that there was a LCD number plate.
Yes.
What happened? Because we didn't really see it in the film. There were,
It was, no, there was a couple of things we didn't see in the film. They shot it on location in Italy, but never used it in the film. We actually had guns that came out the rear lights, which were going back to the traditional Browning ones that were in the original one. But we never used those in the film.
One thing I think I heard you mention in one of your other interviews was that at one point you were going to have the Aston going over a gorge and then having a parachute deploying with the Union Jack. Was that would have been, I know, wouldn't have fitted in with the plot necessarily, but it would have been very cool. Nice homage to your first film.
It would have been a cool homage, you're right. You know, there were many ideas that we were coming up with, but we decided that it was such an emotional moment at the end of that chase, you know,
Yeah.
standing inside with Leia and its windows being shot at. That we didn't want the sequence to be remembered for some fantastical stunt that we were doing, so we pulled it all back in. And, you know, I watched... when we were planning the chase, you know, Lee Morrison, the stunt coordinator, and myself, you know, we watched many classic car chases, Bullet, French Connection. And one thing that, you know, suddenly dawned on us is that they all tend to be quite long. So we deliberately kept this really short, sharp, gritty, A to B, and then that really emotional moment.
Sure. Well, it worked so well. I mean, and the whole pre-titles is, you know, that's the whole pre-title sequence, which is brilliant. Now, moving before your involvement with No Time to Die, of the films you worked on, which of the stunts are you most proud of? I mean, the tank chase obviously is one of your biggies, but are there any ones?
Chase, I'm very proud of the underground train crashing through the ceiling. You know, I was out in Los Angeles actually filming off of one of Chris Nolan's Batman films, and I had a call from Sam Mendes one afternoon. He said, "Chris, I've got this great underground foot chase through London." He said, "I need one jaw-dropping moment." And the cogs went into turn, and I think I woke up about 2 o'clock in the morning, underground train. And that's how that, and
Light bulb.
pitched it to Sam and Barbara and Michael, and they loved it, and the rest is history.
It's an epic scene. Now, talk about Chris Nolan, because he is obviously, you've collaborated on the Dark Knight trilogy with him. He quotes for Inception, which you won your Oscar for. Congratulations. He quotes on a Magic Secret Service as being one of his touchstones that informed his script for Inception and the action sequences. He's been mooted as being a potential future Bond director. What do you think he would bring to the franchise?
Chris is an incredible filmmaker. I'm sure that if he did a Bond, he would make an incredible job of it. I think there are other directors out there who also make incredible. Chris is a massive Bond fan. You know, many times I sat down with Chris and we would look at particular sequences that had been shot on a Bond film, as possibly to guide us how we would film them on one of Chris's films. So,
Great stuff. Well, look, it's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much, Chris.
my pleasure.
Great stuff. Chris Corbould. We meet again, Miss Simmonds. It's really lovely to see you again. Meg, how are you?
Likewise, very well, thank you.
Meg and I met at the launch of the Lock & Co. 007 collection a couple of months ago, which was absolutely fantastic. Great to see you again. You're looking absolutely wonderful as usual.
Thank you.
Now, how long has it been to prepare the items for this auction? What's the process? Do you ever sit down with Michael and Barbara and pick
we
out?
start thinking about it very quickly after the film finishes, and it's you know, when we have multiples, and most things we do have multiples of after the film is finished. So for the No Time to Die items, I can start choosing things that would be good for an auction. It's more difficult when you go further back, because there's, you know, especially the 60s, we just don't have that much from the 60s.
And why is that?
Well, they used to always liquidate their assets at the end of films, as most films did back then. And Connery would take all of his wardrobe and
Cheeky Sean.
so we've had to buy things back at auction to fill in some of the gaps of the 60s when they come up. So for this one, we have, representing the 60s, really vintage posters. We've got a facsimile of a Barclay Mathers script, which is really interesting for anybody who's interested in the storytelling process because
Yep.
it won't match the finished film. It'll be a earlier rendition, so you can see what they've tweaked, which I think would be fascinating.
I think it's a really interesting, yeah, exactly, seeing what the thought processes and the development of the script and so on.
And you can do that comparison while you're in the luxury of Goldeneye Resort, which I would like to be at.
Oh, dream. I mean, especially with the weather. It's been, anyway, weather's been a bit chilly here, so yeah.
So that's a fantastic lot representing Sir Sean Connery.
There's also the one of the menus from Thunderball.
That's
How
right.
did you track that down? I mean, that must be like gold dust.
Well, it's thanks to Peter Lamont, who was our production designer on many Bond films, but worked under Ken Adam and Mr. Merton for other films. But he was in the art department since Goldfinger, and he was luckily always holding on to things. And it's thanks to him that we have what we do have.
Now, I mean, yes, as you said before, your normal role is to actually go out and hunt for things at other people's auctions to try and track down pieces to bring back into the fold, into the archive. Is it quite fun, though, for you to go through the archive and think, yes, we can let one of those go? Or is it like, we mustn't do, I mean, are there any absolute treasures you think we mustn't?
It's a pleasure to raise a lot of money for good causes. This is a feel-good event for all of us at Eon, and also with the help of our licensees and our partners in filmmaking, and the artists themselves.
Absolutely.
So that feels good, and it's a tradition that Cubby started, and it's about giving back. And the longevity of the Bond films wouldn't exist. It wouldn't have been the success that it has been without the audiences. And it's a way to allow the audiences to see things from the archive and to for 61 lucky people, own a little piece, and the provenance is very good because it's come direct from
Exactly, it's got absolutely, cast iron provenance from Eon itself. I mean, I've got my lottery tickets bought because I really want to grab something from the auction itself. Now, aside from the big items, obviously the Aston Martin stunt car, watches seem to do really well. I remember for the Spectre auction, the estimate for Daniel Craig's Amiga was 15 to 20,000, and it went for 92,000.
Yeah, it always is amazing and surprising at how generous our Bond fans are.
Well,
and what
auction
deep
fever
pockets
takes hold.
they have, which we're very happy about.
Well, it's great for, obviously, that you've got 45 charities that are lined up to benefit from the auction, which is absolutely fantastic. But as you say, Bond collectors having deep pockets could be the bane of your life as well, because I know when you're out looking for items, how does it work? Are you given a set budget, or?
I've missed a lot of things at auction because I've been outbid. So
I'd have thought Ian would have massive, sackfuls of gold. You're going to say yes, buy it all, but you're given a strict budget.
no, yes, we do have a strict budget.
But for
And I get to go reprimand the producers and say, "Why did you let that go?"
they just don't understand, do they? Well, look, Meg, good luck with the sale. Thanks so much. It's always a pleasure to see you. You're looking
Likewise.
fantastic again.
Thank you.
See you soon, Meg Simmonds. This is Adrian Hume-Sayer,
That's
who
right.
is one of the directors here at Christie's and head of sale.
Absolutely, looking after the James Bond sale.
Has it been a roller coaster ride? How's it been getting all the lots sorted out? And
Absolute rollercoaster ride. It's been a quite a long process because originally it was a sale to celebrate No Time to Die, and then with the release of the film being delayed, the sale was also delayed, which was brilliant for us in a way because what it meant is that it continued to grow. It was like a snowball. And so that's how we've ended up with this fantastic sale that we've got now. So that's why the live sale is sort of more focused on No Time to Die, because that was the original nucleus and impetus for the sale, as we had for Spectre in 2016. But as time passed, it sort of approached the 60th anniversary, and obviously we'd been fortunate enough to collaborate with Eon for the 50th anniversary 10 years ago. And so it was just a perfect fit, really. And that's how we've ended up with this wonderful sale that we've got on view at the moment. Well, highlights we've got here. Obviously, there's so much more than we could fit in the building.
you've got 60 lots, so yes, there's no way you could have...
61 now.
61.
We've added another one today.
What's the new lot?
So we've added a Duesenberg guitar.
Oh,
this
the one that's
morning.
going to be used at the concert.
The one that's going to be used at the concert on the 4th of October at the Royal Albert Hall, on stage with David Arnold. It's going to be signed by David Arnold. It's going to be signed by Michael G. Wilson, Barbara Broccoli, and other people performing that night. Fortunately, our online sale happens to end the following day, the 5th of October, James Bond Day.
Of course.
And so it will come straight back over here after they've signed it, after the concert, ready for the sale
Still
the following
sweat,
day.
still...
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Now, I mean, I was going to ask you, which are the markets that are the strongest for the Bond fan, you know, the memorabilia and the collecting?
Well, in terms of interest that we've had for the sale so far, it's coming from everywhere. America is particularly strong, as you would expect. The UK is particularly strong, but it's coming from everywhere, really, every corner of the planet, because this is such a unique moment. There are lots of Bond sales that happen out there in the world, but they're not often official Bond sales with Eon. I mean, the props that have come from the archive, they've effectively come directly from the set of James Bond. You don't get purer provenance than that.
Exactly. It's like cast iron, you know, the best provenance absolutely possible.
Absolutely.
Now,
Absolutely.
I was going to also, I mean, it's a bit of a dark subject, but the war in Ukraine, how has that affected the markets? Because I know the Russian market is traditionally quite a big market for Christie's.
It's affected, I mean, obviously the war has affected everybody, and it has affected the markets undoubtedly, as of course it's affected everything. But how it will affect this sale, this is something that we have sporadically. It's not a consistent part of our offering. So to quantify it in relation to this particular sale is very difficult. But what I can say is that we've got lots of interest from everywhere else, so hopefully we'll still raise lots of money for charity, which is the point of this sale.
I know, I was talking to Michael, and 45 charities. I mean, Eon are renowned for their philanthropy.
Absolutely, and that's really the driver behind this sale, is to raise as much money as possible for as many charities as possible. It's not just raising one, as you say, it's at 45, in excess of 45, because we've added 2 more today with the guitar. So, and the charities are a really broad spectrum of charities that have been chosen by actors, cast, crew, Eon Productions. They've tried to spread it as much as they can to help some very small charities as well as the big ones that we've all heard of, which is such a wonderful thing to do.
Absolutely. Now, I mean, you mentioned the 50th anniversary. You raised, I think, 1.6 million for that one, and then the Spectre auction raised 3 million roughly.
Well, to date, across the 3 sales we've had so far, we've raised almost £5 million, and so we're hoping with this sale. As an auctioneer, I always want to be slightly conservative, but in excess of £3 million is what we're saying for this. But we'll see where it goes on the night.
Now, obviously, you've got the big ticket items. I mean, the Aston Martin stunt car is what we're talking.
Incredible.
And auction fever as well, especially Bond collectors as well.
It's
the charity element.
The charity element, and also as we said before about the cast iron provenance for these objects, and the unique opportunities, because this isn't going to happen again in a hurry. These are fantastic objects. Cast iron provenance. That's the only one of the stunt cars to be offered for public sale. So this is a singular opportunity. Also, you've got the other vehicles in the sale. Now, obviously, we can only fit the V8 in. We can only fit the DB5 in here and the Scrambler, but we've got the 2 Land Rover Defenders 110, one from the film, one special Bond edition road car. We've got the DBS road car. We've got the amazing V8.
Oh, that's my.
I mean, that would be my dream, really, because it's the one car that was in the film and is also a road car. It's got an MOT.
So you can drive it off the lot and get back home.
Exactly. I mean, just an amazing thing. But then we've also got the speedboat from The
know,
World
the
Is Not
Q-boat.
Enough.
I mean,
Exactly. I mean, with a fantastic object. That iconic scene, as with everything, was one of a number in the film. But I'm told that particular one was the one that was used for most of the action sequences.
And the stunt, it actually has the rockets. You can actually.
Yeah, the rockets pop out of the front. It's an amazing thing, and it comes with a trailer, so you can drive it away. I mean, it's fantastic, and we've got the huge Day of the Dead skeleton puppet from Spectre.
How tall is that? It's like 30 feet or something, isn't it?
It is huge. It depends how you hold it and how you set it up, but it's to the exact dimensions, but it is massive. There's so many things. We sort of got almost an embarrassment of riches in this. There's something for everyone. Hopefully.
Okay, money no object. Last question, because I'm getting prodded by people. Money no object. If there was not your blank check, what would you be bidding on?
Well, I can't say. Obviously, DB5 is the dream. There are 3 things I'm going to mention. DB5, the V8. I would just, as we've already said, I would just love to have that to drive around in, but also the egg from Octopussy.
Those are my 3. Seriously. No, seriously. Fabergé egg can just slip in your pocket, bring it out of parties. But the Aston V8, I mean, I'm a big Living Daylights fan, and obviously it's in No Time to Die as well. But those are my 3 things.
Yeah.
Maybe we can do a deal backstage.
I suspect we may not be alone in this shopping list. I suspect there may be some others with similar ideas. But we'll see on the night. But the egg, because it's a wonderful thing. It's an iconic moment in the film, and there were only 2 of them made. And the other one's in the Eon archive. They might have let one go. They're not going to let the other one go. But
what I was astonished by when it arrived, it's made by Asprey. The quality of it is fabulous. It is actually a work of art. It's not just a film prop. It is a work of art. The craftsmanship of it is fantastic. The enamelling is fantastic. I mean, in my other life, I was a furniture and decorative arts specialist before I did private and iconic collections, and so that appeals to me all round. It's just a really fabulous thing. That would be the dream.
Okay. Well, good luck with the sale. I'm sure it's going to sail past all the
Fingers
estimates.
crossed.
Fingers crossed. But Adrian, thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Okay, guys, we'll have a quick mooch around and have a look at. Oh, this suit looks familiar. This is one of Daniel Craig's from the pre-title sequence for Spectre, obviously. Tom Ford. Absolutely wonderful suit. Yeah, it looks rather good. Let's keep going. We had a look at the Aston Martin with Chris Corbould. Here we got one of the lots here. Lot 57 is a Leica camera. It's one of the special edition ones with a Globetrotter case. You obviously get it signed by Daniel Craig as well, and you get also a book, the Gregg Williams Daniel Craig's Bond book as well, included in the lot. Moving around here. Oh, this is Christoph Waltz's costume as obviously as Blofeld. Rather nice. Yeah, velvety. Get the trousers and the shirt as well. Rather nice. If we move around here. Oh, these are one of the lots. The 6 Bond actors have all donated one item. This is George Lazenby's contribution. It's signed by George Lazenby 007 at the back there. You get 2 of the limited edition Omega watches, the Bond watches, celebrating On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Rather tasty. Here we have Naomi Harris's satchel bag from No Time to Die. When she goes to Q's flat, this is what she's carrying. It's a Michael Kors collection Bancroft leather satchel. Rather nice for the lady friend if you've got. Estimates 2,000 to 3,000. But as we know with auctions, auction fever, especially for charity and it's a Bond auction, they might fly past that estimate. Let's saunter over here. If we look here, we've got. Now this is obviously Silver's suit when they on the island when they're doing the shooting duel when he first meets Daniel Craig in Skyfall. Now the costume designer Janet Amin wanted to do a blend of the sort of very very formal sort of jacket and trousers, but then the very very flamboyant shirt underneath, because they wanted to show this sort of menace going on in the background underneath Raoul Silver's persona. Now to one of my favourite lots coming under the hammer. It's the Fabergé egg, or Fabergé egg actually made by Asprey's, from Octopussy. They only made 2 of them, and Eon have kept one back, but it plays such an integral part of the film, and it's absolutely stunning in the detail. The estimate is only, what, £6,000 to £10,000. It's going to sail past that because it's such an iconic piece from one of my favourite Roger Moore films. But it's absolutely beautiful. Enamelled green, gold. It's made with Swarovski diamonds as well, but you've got the Imperial State Coach, the Russian royal family was obviously gifted these eggs by Fabergé every year. But absolutely wonderful. In the same cabinet, we've got the Aquaterra Omega watch that Daniel Craig wears in the scenes in Matera, in the pre-title sequences, which is absolutely gorgeous. And then on the other side, it's one of the watches that Daniel Craig wears for the majority of the film, the Seamaster 300M Omega, which he played a part in designing, in fact. It's a very interesting, it's got some sort of brown look to the patina on the face of the watch, and the strap obviously is very iconic as well, sort of Milanese strap. Now, watches traditionally sail past their estimates. The Omega is up for £15,000 to £20,000, but the last Omega that came up for sale for the Spectre auction, which was the one he wore in Spectre, again estimated £15,000 to £20,000, but that went over to £92,000. It's very cool having James Bond's watch, especially one that Daniel Craig was involved in its development. Now, if we move back this way, we have a few very interesting items here. We've got a belt buckle from the Drax space crew, the space technicians from the film. It's sort of a buckle that goes on their rather natty jumpsuits. Behind is also included in the same lot. You get, it wasn't actually used in the film, but it was a design for the globes that were used for the for the pods that were jettisoned from the shuttles from the space station up in space. And this is a lot. If I had my numbers come up in the lottery, it's one that I bid on. It's from The World Is Not Enough. It's the nuclear locator card and the clock that Judi Dench sort of knocks over and then manages to get the battery out to attach to the locator card that alerts Pierce Brosnan's Bond to her location, and it's a very, very crucial part of the film. Really nice workmanship on that as well. So that would be something I'd be bidding on if I had the readies. Let's keep going. This is quite fun here. This obviously is one of 3 of the cello cases that were made for The Living Daylights, that famous scene with Cara Mallovi and Tim Dalton's Bond escaping after the Aston Martin they've detonated it, self-destructed it. They escape in the cello case, the Stradivarius Lady Rose cello case. It's got behind it's got actually some metal framework that was used for when they're skidding down the pistes on trying to escape from the Russian soldiers. Then they throw the cello over the barrier and make it into Austria with nothing to declare. This is quite an interesting piece. I know there was quite a lot of interest for it. This is one of the models they made for Tomorrow Never Dies, the BMW 750 IL, that was actually the one that was driven off the top of the car park, which actually was Brent Cross, but it's supposed to be in Hamburg. This one's interesting because it's got the details underneath, so you can actually, when the car was flying over, they got the underside of the car. It's amazing in its detail. It's obviously designed to look like it's been battle torn because it's been shot at and so on and so forth. With obviously Pierce Brosnan would have been in the back seat of the car, controlling the car with his Nokia phone. Interesting lot. The valuation is £7,000 to £10,000, but again, auction fever, charity fever. It's going to sail past that. It really is an amazing piece of Bond memorabilia. Above we've got one of the patches from Zorin from A View to a Kill. One of the Zorin sort of henchmen would have worn either on the back of his jacket in the last scenes in the quarry, possibly. That's on the lower end. It's £700 to £1,000 estimate. So if you wanted something at the cheaper end, that could be something to think about. Here we have a Skyfall clapperboard. I don't think this was actually used in the film, but it's been signed by lots of the stars. You've got Naomi Harris, you've got Sam Mendes, Daniel Craig, Berenice Marlowe, and Javier Bardem have all signed it. So that'd be a lovely thing to have on your wall in your Bond room, your Bongen, maybe we could call it that. Okay, and moving forward, here we have again one of the key pieces from No Time to Die. This is Primo. Spectre Agent Primo, who actually defects in the end to Rami Malek's Safin side. But this is one of the eyes that was made. There were different ones made with different weights so that they could be used for different scenes, but this is the one, it comes on its own little kind of like, it looks like an egg cup almost, a little mounting thing here for storage. It's going to, together with the cradle, velvet cushion and plate eyeball, estimates £4,000 to £6,000. It was one of the less believable things from the film for me. I mean, we had smart blood and bionic eyes and nanobots. It all got a bit too much for me. But if you fancy that, if this is your bag, it's something that's small you can have on your shelf. Yeah. This next door, though, this is something that I would be really interested in bidding on because, as I mentioned to Michael G. Wilson, Spy Love Me was the first one I saw in the cinema. Barbara Bach is one of my favourite Bond girls, and this is the dress she wears first of all when she meets in the Majaba Club, when they're bidding in the bidding war with her and Bond and Max Kalber, and then she wears it obviously and famously in the desert scenes when they go to the Egyptian ruins and they have the run-in with Jaws. It's absolutely iconic. It's studded with diamonds. It's beautiful. Estimates. Where are we on this estimates for this one here? I'm not sure. Oh, here we are down here. Estimates £5,000 to £6,000. The last time I looked online, in fact, it had already gone past 6,000. So a lot of interest in this particular piece. For me, it is iconic, absolutely iconic. And if I had the money, yeah, something I would slip on maybe after hours. Fantastic. Now this is again something very exciting. This was one of the, as I said before, the Bond actors all put one piece for their own personal charities. This is one of the scramblers, the Triumph scramblers that we used in the scenes of Matera. It was originally obviously driven by Primo, the henchman, but then it's Daniel Craig knocks him off and then commandeers it and does that amazing stunt jump into the square. I was going to ask, it's been adapted for stunt work. It's absolutely glorious. If you're a bike enthusiast, this is something definitely that should be on your shopping list come the auction time. Lovely to have the backdrop of Matera, really high resolution picture in the background there, so it really does feel like you're part of the action. More over here, we've got some glasses, the Barton Pereira glasses, the Nortons that Daniel Craig wears in the scenes of Matera when he's driving the romantic, scenes at the beginning, driving in the Aston to Matera. Absolutely beautiful glasses. Estimates for those, £10,000 to £15,000. Yeah, I think that's fair. That's a fair price. Moving around, we can see here we've got these are Q's glasses, Ben Wishaw's glasses from when he's in the Q lab. In fact, the interior of the Q lab. Here we go. But they are very cool glasses and obviously very wearable. Here we go, something very interesting. This is the combat outfit that Daniel Craig wears in the final scenes of No Time to Die. One of the pairs. There's actually N. Peel were involved in the creation. This is the shirt is rag and bone, this white shirt, but N. Peel were involved in the creation. They actually released some pairs of trousers that you can buy in store. You actually get the boots as well. They also get all the webbing and the gun holsters, which is you can recreate them, but some of the things you can't track down anymore. But very cool. Estimates for this are £15,000 to £20,000. I think that's it's going to soar past that. We have a few costumes that were worn by Rami Malek's Safin. This is the one he wears at the end in the Garden of Death scenes, in the final scenes of the film. It's basically a Han-10 Japanese jacket, in the style of that anyway. Very interesting kind of ensemble, and some shoes. I actually looked online to see how much these shoes are, and they're like £700 or £800 to buy new anyway, but with obviously the provenance from the film. Amazing. But if it's your bag, if it's your jam, it could be quite interesting. We also know this obviously has very, very iconic opening scenes when Safin's character, as a younger man, is trying to stalk Mr. White to his house in Norway, but actually finds Mr. White's wife and daughter. And this costume, it was supposed to, the costume designer Sutirat and Lalab wanted something that was going to be obviously camouflage because it's a snowy scene, but also something that's expressionless and doesn't have any sort of sense of emotion, which is why they used this Japanese no mask, or was inspired by Japanese no masks, because it kind of like you hides the aggression underneath that Safin's obviously feeling, but it's obviously very creepy as well. But you can see the bullet holes. You've got bullet holes on the leg and the chest there, and the boots he wears as well. That's very, very kind of like an evocative costume, and I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this particular lot. The estimates are £8,000 to £12,000. I think that's probably about right. It might go slightly higher than that. Finally, in this particular room, we've got one of Daniel Craig's suits. And I think this is from Skyfall. This is from the pre-titles sequence when he's chasing through the streets of Istanbul. He's on a motorbike. And he's riding across the rooftops, obviously in Istanbul. It's Tom Ford's suit, nice sharkskin suit, and a very, very wonderful Tom Ford tie, which I had as well. Estimates for this, what are we looking at? £10,000 to £15,000. I think that's going to be smashed because it really is a very, very famous suit. I know that when I spoke to Jani Tamim a while back, she said that they got through 75 suits, I think. They obviously have to be matched up and distressed in certain ways for certain parts of the pre-title sequence, but 75 suits. But Tom Ford obviously was on hand to supply them, and he gets a lot of interest from Bond fans, obviously, as on the back of that. But that's a lot of suits to have made. Two other lots here. This is Ana de Armas's dress, Michael Osordo dress that she wore, the Alexander that she wore in the scenes in Cuba. Absolutely gorgeous, totally cool because she kicks ass in this dress. And yeah, estimates for this one are £6,000 to £12,000. It's iconic, so I think it's going to sail past that. Absolutely stunning, and Ana de Armas obviously stole the show, I think, for No Time to Die. And finally, we have this is Lashana Lynch's combat gear for the last scenes when on the mission to Safin's Island. Nomi wears this. It's in contrast to Bond's kit that was basically N. Peel kit. But it looks absolutely stunning, really cool. Estimates for this one are 10 to 15 grand. Okay, something for your lady friend, possibly, the Bond girl in your life. This is a guitar that was specially designed by a guy called Distin. It's going to be used in the concert, the 007 concert that's going on I think either the 4th or the 5th, and can be played by David Arnold, and then it's going to be whisked back for the auction, but for somebody to buy. But it's really cool design. It's got the Bond gun barrel sort of as part of the design. Very cool piece. Well, this is one of 2 Land Rover Defenders that have been put up for auction for the 60th anniversary. This one I think is one of the stunt ones that was used in the scenes shot in Norway. But there's another one that's a limited edition one that's been signed by Lashana Lynch, I think, as well on the sill plate, and has a little 007 graphic that gets projected onto the pavement. If we come this way, we'll have a look at some of the other. Now this, if my numbers come up on the lottery, this is what I'll be putting my money on, because this is one of 3 Aston Martin V8s that were specially requisitioned for the film. This is obviously evokes the Aston that Timothy Dalton drove in The Living Daylights, but this is one of 3 that was made for the world. Tomorrow Never Dies. It's absolutely stunning. It's an Aston Martin V8. I think it was built up to Vantage spec, a bit like the one that was used in The Living Daylights. How cool is this? Sitting in the very seat that Daniel Craig sat in for those scenes in No Time to Die. He throws the blankets off in his lockup. This is one of 3 Aston Martin V8s that were made specially for the film. In the Cumberland grey and the anthracite interior, it's absolutely wonderful. Evokes the V8 that was used by Tim Dalton, obviously, in The Living Daylights with all the gadgets. This one is without gadgets, but it has got an MOT, so you can actually drive this one home if you have the winning bid in the live auction on Thursday. It is an absolutely immaculate condition. I'm very jealous. If my numbers come up on the lottery, this is where I put my money, because it's always been a dream of mine to have an Aston Martin V8, but one that features in a Bond film. Take my money. Take my money. Absolutely gorgeous. I'd like to thank Mark from Stratton Motors, who very kindly let me sit in the car, and he was actually involved when we did the advanced screening for No Time to Die, when I had a chance to sit in the Superleggera that Nomi drove in No Time to Die. It was absolutely wonderful. But I feel very, very blessed. And then further back here, we've got one of the limited edition Aston Martin Superleggeras. They made 25 which evoke the Aston Superleggera from the film that Nomi drives, in the scenes when she picks up Daniel Craig in Norway and they go off to that's actually Bryce Norton Air Force Base. I actually shot a film of the only one that was used in the film that was up for auction over the summer in the Goodwood Festival of Speed. I'll put a link to that video here. If you haven't seen it, you must do. It's amazing. But this one is not from the film, but it's one of the 25 that were special editions. But still, nice thing to have in your garage. Well, how incredible was that? What a day! Having the chance to sit down with Michael G. Wilson and his son and pick their brains about their life in the world of James Bond, the ever wonderful Meg Simmonds, the incredible Chris Corbould. How generous of them to spare us the time to have a quick chat. What would you be bidding on if you had money, no object? What has caught your eye in the sales catalogue? Anyway, I'm going to go and put another bet on the lottery because I really fancy 2 or 3 things, especially the Fabergé egg, I think. That'd be absolutely wonderful. But for now, this has been Blair Ballard, the Bon Vivant, bidding you very Bond farewell. Stay safe, friends. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, please do consider smashing those like and subscribe buttons. Do turn on notifications so you know when the next video drops. Also, leave some comments down below as to any videos you'd like to see in the future. But for now, stay safe, friends. We'll see you next time.